and prevailing, right? That's what I hear. That's good because that's what I'm going to talk about. So, so that's what I want to talk to y'all about is those three things, right? Through the power of prayer, making it your priority, persevering through that prayer, and prevailing. All right, so priority. Prayer should be our first priority. The definition of priority is a thing that is regarded as more important than anything else, right? So does that reflect your prayer life? Now, in all fairness, does it accurately reflect? Not how you want to think your prayer life is, right? But does it accurately reflect your prayer life? Is it your first priority? Because let's be real, we live in a fallen, dark world, right? This is Satan's kingdom, and it's becoming more and more evident every single day how dark this place is, right? And so what happens is there's a lot of static coming from all of these outside sources. You've got social media, right? You've got the news, there's volcanoes, there's school shootings, there's earthquakes. Then you've got just your basic like to-do lists, right? Finances, health. You've got everything, all of this static that is going, and it is so loud. It is so incredibly loud that it is so hard for us to hear him, and for us to really stop and make that a priority. So I think that what's happening a lot that we're starting to do because of all of that static and that outside chaos and noise is that we are starting to learn about God, and we're continuing learning about God, but we don't know God, right? We don't have that intimacy with God. I love the story in John 4 of the Samaritan woman at the well, right? It's one of my favorites. And I love it so much because she knows what she is. She's a Samaritan woman. She knows she's tore up from the floor up, right? She's like husband number 5. She's working on 6. She knows who she is. She knows her sin, right? We know our sin, y'all. We may not talk about it, right? But we know our sin, right? And so she knows what her story is. And she's like, I know it is hot outside, and I don't care because these pails, these buckets I got to fill, I'm going to go middle of the day. I'm not going in the mornings. I'm not going in the evening when everybody else is there. I'm going middle of the day because I know what I am. I know what I'm about. It's not a secret. I don't want to catch the stares. I don't want to hear the gossip, the whispers. So I'll just roll up in there middle of the day with my buckets. I'll get my water. I'll do my thing. I'll do what I need to do, right? And I quite honestly, like mad props to her because I'm going to be real with y'all. I'm not one of these ladies that glistens, okay? Like I straight up sweat, y'all. I'm serious, I do. So going in the middle of the day, with that water, that was more important to not put herself in that situation, to have to hear them just throw all of that hate on her, right? So you know that by the time she gets to the well, she's tired, I'm sure. If she's me, she's kind of sweaty, right? She's glistening. And she gets there, and what I love is that Jesus is there, and he is just patiently waiting on her, And here's the thing. He's already sitting there, right? So who knows how long he's been sitting there waiting on her, right? He didn't like mall walk past her as she had her buckets and was like, I'll see you in 5. I'll be there waiting on you. He's there waiting. He's there already waiting on her. He's not like, it's hot. You need to get on up here with these buckets. I'm about to tell you some stuff. He's just patiently, lovingly waiting. And she's got him, and she's starting to do her thing, filling those buckets with the water, and he starts pouring his living water into her, right? And it's like a slow drip at first. And while he's talking to her, she's not making him a priority, what he's talking about. She doesn't exactly realize what's going on, right? She doesn't realize who he is. And so she's kind of half listening. And she's got to be like, this dude is sketchy. What is going on? Like, he's obviously a Jewish man. I am obviously a Samaritan woman. Like, I don't know what his deal is, but I'm just going to get my water, and maybe he'll leave me alone. And so the static, right? The static and the noise, her baggage, her bondage, right? that's infiltrating her thinking, and it's holding her back from really being able to listen and focus on what he's saying, on top of just the stuff that she's got to do of filling those buckets of water. She's filling that water, right? And so she's kind of half listening as she's doing it. She's half listening to what he's saying, and he's starting to speak some truth, and she's like, how do you know that? She's like, okay. And he keeps pouring it in, pouring it in, pouring it in, and that water, that living water that only Jesus can give us, is starting to seep in, right? It's starting to seep in through the crevices, and it's getting in a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper, and all of a sudden, this water she's been filling up, she's not even messing with it anymore, right? Because she's listening to him. She's like, this is the Messiah. Is this happening? He knows me. He knows me. And that becomes her first priority. In that moment, she's now focused on him. That's her first priority. She's not worried about that water anymore. She could care less, because now what he's giving her is that living water that's better than anything else she could have thought was a priority. Right? She's like, peace out on the buckets. I'm going to town. I got to tell the people what's just happened. Right? Because she is filled up with the living water. That's the water that we need. She turned from what she was doing. Instead of half listening to him while she was focused on all this other stuff, she turned. She gave him her priority. She gave him her focus. Right? And so in that story, what I think about a lot is I'm like, how often are we that woman at the well? Right? How often are we that woman where he's sitting there and he is just patiently waiting? He's like, all right, you do you. I'm just sitting here waiting, right? I'm just going to be sitting here waiting on you. And we're just kind of like, okay, bustling through, doing all this stuff. And we're so distracted, right? We're so distracted and focused on everything else, and we're not stopping. And I love the acronym. God laid it on my heart a few months ago for stopping. He was telling me to stop. But to sit, talk, open, and prayer, right? Sit down, talk to him, be open to him, and pray, right? And with everything that we've got going on, it's so hard to do. It's that chaos. So a few months ago, my daughter and I, every year there's a First Things First event. It's called Secret Keeper Girls. And moms can go to it with their preteen daughters. And you just talk about maneuvering this world as a Christian mom and as a young Christian girl and working through it. And they asked me prior to it, they were like, would you like to model in it? I was like, yeah, I would. Thanks for asking. I'm like, that's right, Sophie. Mommy's going to model in it. So we show up, and my role as a model was that the girl told me, bless her heart, the 20-year-old girl told me, she was like, so your role is going to be a chaotic, stressed out mom. Well, let me tell y'all the season of my life right now. I'm a full-time working girl with a wonderful full-time working husband, a 9-year-old daughter, and a 3-year-old daughter, all right? So my outfit was a PJ top that was like buttoned all sorts of wrong, rollers falling in and out, the coffee mug, the house shoes, the robe, the whole deal. And the little 20-year-old sweet girl, bless, she said, okay. She was like, so I want you to like pretend that you're a really stressed out mom. She's like, I want you to pretend that you're super stressed out and have a lot going on. And I don't know, like maybe the kids are late for school or something, and you're trying to get them out the door. I looked at her and I was like, girl, I got you. I have been training for this moment for the past 9 years. I got you. But it also reminded me of the stop, right, of the chaos. Even that stuff, it's not always these big, huge, massive things that are happening, right? But it's even in that moment of just the busy chaos, creating that space where we can stop and be present and make prayer that priority, an intimate connection with him, right? That's what we've got to do. We've got to take it deeper. And it makes me think about, okay, who's the people that you're intimate with in your life? Right? You're intimate with those individuals, whether it's a spouse or a child or a parent, because you have those continuous conversations with them. right? You're invested in their life. You're intimate with them. You dig deep. You recognize their voice. They recognize your voice, right? So I think about the difference and how you are able to discern your voice because you have that intimate relationship with them, right? Like at Target, if there's 50,000 kids screaming, my girls are right here, I'm good. But the second that one of my girls yells, I instantly hear it, right? I can decipher it among all those 50 other kids screaming because I know that voice. I have an intimate connection with that. That's my daughter. We talk on a daily basis. That's my baby. I know who she is. I know what she's about, and I can pick that voice out of a million. Right? It's like the sheep herders back in the day. Right? You got 500 sheep, all sorts of sheep herders. This one sheep herder rolls up, and he's like, I got to get my 50 out of that 500. He hollers at his 50 sheep, and those 50 sheep out of the 500, just those 50, follow him. Right? Because that's their shepherd. They know his voice. They've made it a priority to know his voice. Right? And that's what we have to do with making prayer that priority. So I challenge us to lean in. Yes, thank you. To lean in, absolutely, to lean into him, to find our well, to find our stop space, right? So perseverance, the second one. Pray without ceasing. The definition of perseverance is steadfastness in doing something despite difficulty or delay. Right? This one's, for me personally, this one's always a little bit trickier, right? Because this is when we're facing those trials and tribulations and Satan's wanting to steal our light, right? It's a vulnerable moment. We're in a storm. Our armor might be down a little bit, and he's finding those spaces where he can just slither right on in there. Right? That's where it's easy for him to attack us. But here's the thing, y'all. We've never been promised unicorns and sunshine and rainbows. And anybody who says otherwise is not schooled up, right? That's not the case. John 16:33, in this world we will have tribulation, but be of good cheer because I have overcome the world, right? And because we have the Holy Spirit living inside of us, we're good. He's going to give us that strength. He's going to give us that perseverance that we need to get through that situation and what's going on. Because generally, you've heard those 3 seasons of life that you're always in, right? You're either going into a storm, you're in one, or you're coming out of one, right? So we know that. So we've got to have our deeply nurtured roots and our soil to be well watered so that when those storms come, because it's not a matter of when they'll come or if they come, right? They're coming. And when they do, that we are strong enough, we have persevered enough to be strong enough to stand strong in that, right? And that we can weather that storm. Romans 5:3, we glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. Persevering through trials is a gift. I love this. Those who have never truly suffered may not appreciate God as much as those who have had the gift of maturing under hardship. Because with great trials, y'all, then comes the opportunity for great praise, right? Because a lot of the time, unless somebody has had that suffering, unless they've been in that valley where there is no way out, there is no hope, that is when you can feel that goodness and that grace and that mercy and that love that only Jesus can give you in those deep, dark valleys. And I've had those trials. I've had many of those trials in my life, as we all have. In 2001, I was 21, very mature, 21, and was coming on the end of a relationship ending, a relationship that I thought was going to last forever. Because at 21, every relationship lasts forever, we actually had even been engaged. And a wonderful guy, but had a lot of stuff going on in his life internally, right, that he needed to filter through himself. So I had to remove myself from that situation. And it hurt because we had been engaged, and I thought that was going to be forever, right? But what God taught me during that time was how to pray on a deeper level, right? How to pray, not just those surface layers prayers, but those prayers where you're crying out to him because you don't understand what's going on. And he told me, he was like, you don't need to be trying to write your own love story. You need to give the pen back to me, and you need to let me write it. And that's so prevalent, I feel like, with so many things in our life, right? Give him the pen back. Because trust me, at the end of the day, you'd much rather let him be writing your story, right? And like 6 months later, God brought my husband into my life, right? So what a blessing. Hopefully he says the same thing. But truly. And then, so 2 years later, this individual that I was talking about, he actually passed away. He took his own life because of everything that he had going on, right? And so then there was, again, that deeper level of persevering in prayer, right? Digging deeper again. And I don't understand why this is going on, Lord. What in the world is this about? And as a Christian, what does it mean, right? Trying to work through all of that and all of those emotions. 2004, I was 24 years old, and my husband and I had just gotten engaged. And the biggest stressor in my life was the life or death issue of what color of flowers to use for my wedding, because that was super important. And yeah, the shade of pink was going to make or break everything. And I got a call one morning at 7:45 in the morning from my doctor's office. So fun fact, when your doctor's office calls you at 7:45 in the morning, generally not good news. They're not calling to wish you a good morning, right? My doctor told me, he said, you have cancer. I was like, I'm 24, right? So I'm like, well, okay, I just got this new job, though, and I really don't know. Maybe the next few days I'll make it in. What's the worst case scenario that could happen? Just in me not understanding the enormity of the situation, right? And he was like, well, he said, it can kill you and it will kill you, and you need to be at my office today. I said, all right. Let me tell you about the power of prayer and persevering through prayer when a doctor's looked you in the eyes and told you that you have cancer and I don't know if you'll be alive to make it to your wedding day. Wow. That will bring you to your knees, right? That will show you perseverance through prayer. And I'm a very controlled, I like to be in control, y'all. I have control issues. Right, shocker. But, so you want to talk about something that challenges that, right? On the deepest level. I remember stopping at the church that I had grown up in, been there my whole life, and middle of the week, stopping at that church and going into the sanctuary, and it was completely dark, and going in there and just falling to my knees because I had nothing. There was no plan B, plan C, nothing, y'all. Nothing but the power of prayer. Nothing but my sweet Jesus. And let me tell you something. He is so good, y'all. He is so good. Okay? And let me tell you, there are days now that I miss that. Because in that valley, there was a closeness and an intimacy with him that you can't even really understand and appreciate and experience until you're in that valley. And sometimes I miss that, right? And what a beautiful gift. At the age of 24 years old, I got the appreciation of life through my Lord and Savior in a way that most people, it takes their whole entire life to understand. Right? So how amazing. You tell me how good our God is. That's a good God. And let me tell y'all something else. Praise Jesus, because it's no coincidence that I'm here speaking to you about that today. Today is my 14-year anniversary, so I've been cancer-free in full remission for 14 years, right? Absolutely. But that power of prayer is what it's about. For the past 6 years, I've been in a job that I thought was going to last about 2 months. I've had no insurance, no benefits. My husband doesn't get it through his company, so financially, that's been very much a hardship on our family, right? We have horrible insurance. I won't get started on that. But we have persevered. We have persevered through that, right? So I have learned to pray and depend on him financially in a way that I never would have otherwise. In a way where I got a Walmart gift card for groceries because they felt like they gave us bad service. Just sitting in the mailbox. And I hadn't even called and complained, okay? This was just randomly. That's how good God is. I persevered and I dug in. Because, y'all, that's what you do. You dig in, right? In 2016, my mother-in-law, my precious, precious mother-in-law, who we were all so very close to, was diagnosed with cancer. And we lost her the day before Thanksgiving. During that year, we had the blessed gift of being her caregivers. She was single, and so it really fell on me and my husband and my brother-in-law. And driving back and forth, she was in Knoxville. She stayed at Vanderbilt for a while. And those days where you're just like, first of all, why, Jesus? Why are you doing this? Our daughter was like a year and a half old at the time. Why? Why are you doing this? I don't understand. I don't know how we're going to have the strength. We work. We also work. So how are we going to do all of this? Right? And seeing somebody that you love so much fighting so hard, right? But we dug in and we persevered because that's what you do. And he gave us that strength. And let me tell you something, y'all. We were there holding her hand until the very end. And I have never felt as close to heaven as we were when we were holding her hand. Because I felt like we were holding her hand here, and Jesus was holding her hand on the other side, welcome her home into heaven. Y'all, I'm not even playing. That was the closest I have ever felt to God. And we dug in, and we persevered, and we prayed her through those pearly gates, y'all. And what a beautiful blessing, because she's not lost. We know exactly where she is, right? We're going to see her again. And what a blessed gift that is. So what I learned through all of that, what I learned is prayer doesn't have to be pretty, right? It doesn't have to be organized. It doesn't have to have nice, pretty words, be at a certain place at a certain time. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be quiet. Prayer is just conversation. Prayer is sometimes anger. Prayer is sometimes anger. And he's good with that. He's like, that's cool, that's fine. Just bring it to me. Right? Bring it to me. Bring it, lay it at the cross. Bringing that anger to him, bringing that sadness. Sometimes not having the words, y'all. Like, I want to pray right now. I don't even know what to say to you. Why? Right? And just feeling that grace and that mercy just wash over you. But here's the thing. Sometimes it washes over you right away, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you feel like there's crickets chirping. Right? And you're like, I don't understand. I'm doing everything that I need to be doing, and I'm digging in, and I'm persevering, and I'm making it a priority, and I'm still hearing crickets. You dig in because he is there, and he is listening, and it's in his time because his timing is not perfect. His time is perfect, not mine. Right? I don't want it in my time. I'll jack it up. I'll mess it up, y'all. It needs to be in his time. So keep praying. Pray over the crickets. Pray in silence. Pray when you don't have the words. Pray in anger, but just pray. And remember whose you are, right? We're not the daughter of a king. We're a daughter of the king, right? The Alpha, the Omega, the beginning, the end, the first, the last. We are bathed in his robes of righteousness. We are his children. We are the real deal royalty, right? So you remember that. You remember that, and then you try not to make it a priority. You try not to persevere, because he's got you, and that's all we need, right? All right, prevailing. So prevailing is current and activate, right? Prayer does the work and the heavy lifting, but we've got to go to him and do it, right? We know that Jesus is the living water. We know he's the source of the living water. That's not new information. But yet we don't fully appreciate it and embrace it like we need to. Right? Why is that? Why in the world is that? Y'all, the veil's been torn, right? The veil's torn. We can go to him anytime, day or night or day, and he pours into us. So we have got to take advantage of that. We have got to lean in. We have got to stop, right? We've got to shut off the static. We've got to lean in and dig into him and make it a priority in our lives, because our lives will be changed. Our prayer life should be deepening and growing every single day, because it doesn't look like it did yesterday, and it doesn't look like it did last week, because it's changing, it's evolving, because so are we in our relationship with him, right? We're growing more and more intimate with him every day. We're discerning his voice more and more every day. And I think that we need to pray those scary prayers, right? Because I almost feel like sometimes if we're not praying those big, impossible prayers, that we're doing a disservice to him, right? Because it's almost like we don't think he's capable of doing it. Because he is. And so we need to pray those prayers. We need to make that possible. We need to have that intimacy with him. And we need to listen, lean in and listen, because here's the thing, at the end of the day, we know, right? He could do whatever he wanted to get our attention. He could turn everything into salt around us, everything into lava. He could rock our world. He could scream at us, right? He could scream at the Samaritan woman, "Get up here, I am waiting on you. It is hot. Walk faster," right? But he doesn't. What does he do? He whispers, right? Because what happens when somebody whispers to you? When somebody whispers to you, what do you have to do? You gotta lean in. Yeah. You gotta lean in. And you gotta really listen, right? And you've got to shut off all the other static and the stuff that's going on behind you, because you can't hear what's being said to you with all of that, right? So you got to lean in and you got to listen and cut off all that other static and focus. And you kind of get in that intimate, past the personal space boundary, right? When you lean in. And he just whispers to us ever so gently. Because even by doing that, he's helping us, right? And how beautiful is that? Another one of my favorite stories in the Bible is in 1 Samuel 3, when he is he's trying to talk to Samuel, right? Samuel's new to the prophet game. It's his first rodeo, and so at first he's kind of like, "Yeah, Eli, were you hollering at me?" And Eli's like, "Yeah, no, it wasn't me." And I think Samuel goes back to bed, and he's probably like, "Oh, I guess I just misheard it. I'm going to go back to sleep." Hears it again. This happens 2 more times. Eli figures out what's going on, and he's like, "Look, the big guy's about to lay it down to you." Because I'm sure he said it just like that. And he's like, you need to go and you need to listen. And I'm thinking, like, if that's me and I knew that he's speaking to me and he's about to do it again and now I know it's him, I'm thinking, like, I gotta be ready. Right? I don't know. Do I need to, it's middle of the night. Do I need to, like, brush my teeth? I need to be ready. I need to say just the right response when he speaks to me. Right? Like deer in headlights. And then he says, "Speak, Lord. Your faithful servant is listening." Right? That's what we need to be saying. Speak, Lord. Your faithful servant is listening. And we can do that by making prayer our number one priority, right? By prevailing during those storms and those valleys, right? And persevering during those times. That's how we can discern his whisper. That's how we know and understand the power of prayer, and that's how we take it to the next level. And that's what he wants us to do. And quite honestly, that's what we have to do to be a shining light in this world. We don't have a choice. So that's what my hope is for all of us today that are sitting in here, is that we will all go out, right? It's our great commandment, that we will all go out and we will use that power of prayer as our lifeline to him, and we will reprioritize the things in our life to make that happen, right? To have that intimacy with him to a degree and a level with which we've never known before. Because, man, the joy that's going to flow from that is like nothing we've ever known before either. Right? So I want to thank all of you so much for giving me the opportunity to come and share my heart with y'all today and listening. And I have greatly enjoyed my time here today. And I appreciate it so much. All right. Thank you.